Hello everybody, Gisele Grenier here. In this video lesson today we're going to be talking about taking yellow oxide and shifting it on the color wheel. What happens when you add the brighter yellows and the blues, so the two yellows, two blues? What happens when you mix those together and then you add some white to create a value string? So I'm going to be using the DecoArt Traditions, the Handsy Yellow Medium, Handsy Yellow Light, the yellow oxide obviously, phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, and titanium white. So we have a yellow that leans towards orange, a yellow that leans towards green, a blue that leans towards green, and a blue that leans towards violet. Okay, I'm going to push these out of the way a little bit. I seem to have a shadow on my chart. See right there? I seem to have a bit of a shadow. I don't know why, because I moved my lights. Okay. You should be able to see everything there. So I already created a value string with yellow oxide because we covered that in the previous lesson. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a more dominant yellow oxide mix. So when I say more dominant, if I were to take yellow oxide plus phthalo blue, it'll be more yellow oxide. Where if it was a phthalo blue dominant, it would be more phthalo blue. If you have time, create a double chart. So you would have two Handsy Yellow Mediums, two Handsy Yellow Lights, two phthalo blues, and two ultramarine blues, one with more of one color and one with more of the other color. So how I'm going to do this, I'm going to take the Handsy, first yellow oxide, because that's the more dominant color. And then I'm going to add just enough to shift the color. So what we're doing with this is that by looking at the color wheel, which is where, hang on. By looking at the color wheel, what we're doing is the yellow oxide is a yellowish orange. So it's an earth tone, so it's between these two, but right about in here. So what we're doing is we're going more on adding this and more on adding this. In the upcoming lesson, we're going to be talking about how to brighten up and dull down the colors, but this is more shifting it on the color wheel. So we took Handsy Yellow Medium with yellow oxide, more of the yellow oxide, and I'm going to be putting the pure color up here and then creating a value string. I can already tell that this is much brighter. Now I'm going to take some white and go right over here. I'm not rinsing my brush out for the first mix or blotting it. Just adding white to the dirty brush. Now I'm going to blot my brush in a paper towel, then load white, and just go beside it. So you can see, much brighter. So we're shifting the yellow oxide more towards a brighter yellow. And try to go down, at least 4 or 5 values for this. Because you can see quite the difference in colors, the values. Okay, now we're going to repeat the same thing using Handsy Yellow Light and work our way down. So it's the exact same technique. So I'm going to speed this up a bit because it's the exact same technique. Okay, so you saw this one here. You can see that it went white a lot faster. A Handsy Yellow Light is a much lighter color as well, so you have to keep that in mind. And it's really hard to see the shift. It does dull down a little bit because it's more, Handsy Yellow Light is a yellow, leans towards green. So you can see, I can see it right here. A little bit more right here. So now we're going to do this with the blues. Now this was where we have to be very careful. This was easy because the yellow is much lighter, the Handsy Yellow Medium and Light. Phthalo blue, we have to be very, very careful. because it's so intense. Now phthalo blue is a blue that leans towards green. We just need a speck, and look how much that changed. Holy smokes. On the palette, it looks like a really ugly color. When you put it next to everything else, this would make for a nice, well, dead grass. Okay, now we're going to add more white on the dirty brush. And now this is where you see something really nice. Well, I think I added a little bit too much white there. Remember, you're making it more on the yellow oxide side. Very little phthalo blue is needed. Now blot the brush, take white on the side. My initial thing that I noticed is that this makes a dull green. So your pop quiz question is going to be, why is the green dull? Why is it a dull green? So when you're commenting below, make sure you type out the question, because sometimes I'll ask like 3 or 4 pop quiz questions and some of you are just posting answers when I don't know what you're answering. So retype the question and then post your answer. So why is this green a dull green? You see what's happening as I start adding more white, more white, more white? The value gets, more on the white side, but when you get down here, it looks really creamy. But you can see that is a green. Now I'm going to repeat the exact same technique for the ultramarine blue. I'm not going to speed it up because this one's another different something because ultramarine blue is a lot weaker than phthalo blue. So ultramarine blue leans towards violet. So I'm going to still take the same speck amount so you can see the difference. But look, nothing much happened. And take another speck. Well, that was more of a touch, not a speck. See the difference? So it was, this one here was 1 speck of phthalo blue. This was a speck and a touch. Or you could say 3 specks of ultramarine blue. Okay, blot the brush. Now just add white. This is a nice one too. So you see the slight variations by just taking colors next to it on the color wheel. And when doing that, I'm just going to do this, I say remind me to, I just want to bring out the color wheel just to show you how to analyze that. I'm probably going to cover that off again in lesson 5. When you're choosing a color next to it on the color wheel, well, how do you determine that if it's a neutral? Okay, let me just rinse that off. So yellow oxide plus hence yellow medium, hence yellow light, phthalo blue, ultramarine blue. You see the differences. So phthalo blue is the one that's got the biggest bang in color shift. So your pop quiz question is, why is the phthalo blue mixture so a dull green? Okay, now let me bring up the color wheel. So if yellow oxide sits right around here, when you're thinking of choosing a color next to it on the color wheel, all you have to do is look at the true underlying color. So because yellow oxide is a yellowish orange earth tone, so think of yellow orange, and you're going to work this way. And sorry, you're going to work between yellow, you're going to work this way and this way. I could have done with green, but then the video would have been really, really long. So primarily, it's more orange than yellow. Well, depending on, again, which one you're using. If you're using transparent yellow iron oxide, that's really, really yellow, a really intense earthy yellow. So you could go, even further by taking yellow oxide and adding a little bit of orange and a little bit of red. We're going to be doing that in lesson 5. So don't waste your time doing that right now unless you've got the extra time. I want you to take your yellow oxide and I want you to mix with your 2 yellows and your 2 blues. And if you want to do a bonus, use your 2 greens to see what you get and compare. Now remember, your yellow oxide is going to be the dominant color in your mix. So make sure you use a much smaller amount, keeping in mind that when you're coming with the blues, because they're much darker, you need to use even less. Alrighty, so I want you to post your pictures and your comments below. If you're watching this from YouTube, just make sure you head on over to the community or Facebook to post your pictures over there. Alrighty. Now, the next lesson we're going to be going over is how to brighten up and dull down. We're going to be focusing on using the colors that are next on the color wheel to brighten, but opposite on the color wheel to dull. So some of it was already covered in here, so we're not going to focus too much on the brightening. It'll be more on the dulling. Alrighty, so until I see you in that lesson, stay inspired.